Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Trise Namah Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalau Kalmashanashaya Janavapataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Anarpita Charim Shirat Kurunaya Vatirna Kalo Samarpaitum Unato Jvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratu Va Sachinandana He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Brindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasyacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most beloved Diksha Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And my Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So resuming where we left off in the 7th canto, chapter 5, verse 13. And this is the dialogue that is taking place between Prahlad Maharaj and his teachers, Shanda and Amarta. And they were probing, they were trying to understand how did he know about Vishnu and about bhakti to Vishnu. They wanted to find out what the source was because Hiranyakashipu he ordered them, now you should guard him very carefully and you should make sure that none of the agents will come in disguise, the agents of Vishnu, that they will come in disguise. And they'll infiltrate and they'll pollute the minds of our children. Be very careful about this. So when they brought Prahlad back to school, then they began to question him. How have you learned this? How have you come on the side of our enemies? And then there was a whole dialogue about enemies and friends, and how this is nothing but illusion in this material world, and this is duality. And Prahlad Maharaj, he says that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, so then at that time, one becomes a Pandit. And he does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he then thinks, every one of us is an eternal servant of God, and therefore we are not different from one another. So that's his last statement. Then there was a considerably lengthy purport, which we discussed. Then Prahlad Maharaj says, Saesha Atma Swaparetya Buddhibir Duratyaya Nu Kramano Nirupyate Muhyanti Yad Vartmani Vedavadano Brahmadayo Hyesha Vinaiti Me Matim. There's some kind of ringing. Can you hear that? Hari, Hari. Some ringing is coming at the end. Yeah, like a little tinkling sound. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Okay, that's good. So now Prahlad Maharaj, he says, that persons who always think in terms of enemy and friend, they are unable to ascertain the supersoul within themselves. Not to speak of them, even such exalted persons as Lord Brahma, who are fully conversant with the Vedic literatures. They are sometimes bewildered in following the principles of devotional service. The same Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created this situation, has certainly given me the intelligence to take the side of your so-called enemy. So he's talking to his teacher. Prahlad is talking to his teacher. Yes, so in the purport, it's a very short purport, Prabhupada says, Prahlad Maharaj, he admitted frankly, my dear teachers, you wrongly think that Lord Vishnu is your enemy. But because he is favorable toward me, then I understand that he is the friend of everyone. because he's favorable toward me. So I understand, I get that understanding because he's favorable toward me, that he is the friend of everyone. You may think that I have taken the side of your enemy, but factually he has bestowed a great favor upon me. So this is the point in the beginning of this verse where he says that persons who are always thinking in terms of enemy and friend, they're unable to ascertain the super soul within themselves. In other words, they don't have any perception of absolute truth and tattva. So, yes, and even exalted persons like Lord Brahma, who knows fully all the Vedic literatures, they're sometimes bewildered in following the principles of devotional service. So he's saying that that same Supreme Personality of Godhead who has created this situation, what situation?
That if there's so many living entities and the super soul and is present within all of them, but the individual soul is just present in their own body in that situation?
No, he's referring to the situation that they're addressing, that the teachers are saying that he has taken the side of the enemy.
Okay. So
right?
Even Krishna's arranged this whole...
Yes,
Yeah.
that same Lord has certainly given me the intelligence to take the side of your so-called enemy. And that's why in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, Prahlad is admitting very frankly that, my dear teachers, you wrongly think that Lord Vishnu is your enemy, but because he is favorable toward me, well, I understand that he is the friend of everyone. So you wrongly think that he's your enemy. Actually, he's not. But you wrongly think that because you have not pleased him by your devotional service. So he is not given the proper understanding that he's given to me, that actually he's the friend of everyone. Now, you may think that I have taken the side of your enemy, but factually, he has bestowed a great favor upon me. So, Prahlad Maharaj goes on, telling the teachers about his attraction to the Supreme Lord, because they want to know, where did this come from? How do you have this understanding, right? So he says, O Brahmins, O teachers, as iron, which is attracted by a magnetic stone, moves automatically towards the magnet, my consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu, who carries a disc in his hand. And thus I have no independence.
Is Prahlad Maharaj aware of Narada Muni having that personality, specifically Narada Muni, instructed him within the womb?
Yeah, he is, because later on, when he's answering the inquiry of his classmates that where did you learn this, he tells the story. And he mentions Narada. Yes, he knows. He knows. Okay, so now he's using the example of a magnet and a magnetic stone of iron. And how it's automatically, irresistibly attracted to the magnet. He says, in the same way, my consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu, who carries a disc in his hand. And thus I have no independence. So in other words, I haven't barely even done anything from my side. It's just happened quite automatically. Quite automatically. But it's the natural thing for everyone's consciousness to be attracted to Lord Vishnu. It's the natural thing, just as it is natural for a magnet to attract iron. See? So now in the purport, to be attracted by a magnet is natural. And similarly, for all living entities to be attracted toward Krishna, this is natural. And therefore the Lord's real name is Krishna, meaning he who attracts everyone and everything. And the typical example of such attraction, they are found, examples, plural, of such attraction are found in Vrindavan, where everything and everyone is attracted to Krishna. Prabhu, could you bring me a cup of water? It's on my desk, that stainless steel cup. You can make sure it's filled. So, the Prabhupada's describing the attraction of the Vrijvasis. And he's telling them, the elderly persons, like Nand Maharaj and Yashoda Devi, the friends like Sridham, Sudam, and other cowherd boys. The gopis, like Shrimati Radharani and her associates. And even the birds, the beasts, cows, and calves are attracted. The flowers and the fruits in the gardens are attracted. The waves of the Yamuna are attracted. And the land, the sky, trees, plants, animals, all other living beings are attracted to Krishna. This is the natural situation of everything in Vrindavan. Nice place to be, yeah? So, just contrary to the affairs of Vrindavan is what? The material world, where we live currently. Just contrary to the affairs of Vrindavan is the material world where no one is attracted by Krishna and everyone is attracted by Maya. This is the difference between the spiritual and material worlds. Hiranyakashipu, who was in the material world, he was attracted by women and money to Krishna. And Prahlad Maharaj is explaining that it's unnatural to not be attracted to Krishna. You can know that if someone is not attracted to Krishna, then they are attracted to Maya. Right? And to the degree to which one is freed from the influence of material contamination, to that degree he becomes attracted automatically and naturally to Krishna. So, Prabhupada is quoting the verse, Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti uchite. So, he's saying, Prabhupada is saying that in the material world, everyone is contaminated by the dirt of sense gratification and is acting according to different designations, sometimes as a human being, sometimes a beast, sometimes a demigod or a tree, and so on. So one must be cleansed of all these designations. This is what that verse is telling. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. Remember this term, upadi. Upadi means false designation. That we have a false designation which we are accepting that I am such and such. I am a human being. I mean, even the lower species of life, they're living under their complete false designation. I think about that when I'm with Dharma. Because in my life, I haven't actually had such a, if you want to say intimate relationship with an animal, with a lower species. And I've been here for 1 year feeding him. He is again attracted by Krishna. So in the material world, everyone is contaminated by the dirt of sense gratification. We have to understand this. The dirt of sense gratification. Everyone repeat that. The dirt of sense gratification. Once more. The dirt of sense gratification. And one last time. The dirt of sense gratification. No, tell me what that means. What is this dirt of sense gratification? It means you're dirty. You're not clean. You're supposed to be clean. But you're dirty because you're covered with dirt. So we have to understand, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Being clean is the normal, natural, good thing, good state. But when there's dirt covering you, that's not your normal, natural state. That's why people bathe and take baths, to remove that.
Exploit material energy as a marginal consciousness to try to go into the thick material energy and to try to exploit or enjoy it.
With what?
Huh?
With what? How are you what is the agency through which you're exploiting and enjoying it?
Senses.
Well, senses.
Yes, through your senses.
Senses. This is the important point. The important senses. So go ahead.
So that by identifying even with that material object, whether it's one's body or another body, is contaminating the pure consciousness, which should be identified with spirit, and the spiritual realm where there are spiritual entities.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way,
right. So, the dirt of sense gratification.
The dirt of sense gratification?
Yes. Yes. In the material world, everyone is contaminated by the dirt of sense gratification and is acting according to different designations. Sometimes as a human being, sometimes as a beast, sometimes a demigod or a tree, and so on.
It sounds like sense gratification is what's contaminating us and holding us back.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. It doesn't sound like that. It's directly saying that.
Right.
Directly. So the problem is this. The conditioned souls who have forgotten Krishna are really engaged in trying to, as Prabhupada said in his first Krishna consciousness recorded lecture, to exploit the material nature. Right? All the conditioned souls are trying to exploit the resources of the material nature. But actually, he says, we are becoming more and more entangled in the Vedic system. Now it has to be controlled. Now it has to be regulated. And it has to also be turned into normal function of the senses. The normal function of the senses is not to indulge for your own gratification. This is the whole opposite understanding in the material world. It's the opposite understanding. So the beginning of human life means to understand that I have fallen into illusion. This is not my normal, natural position, but I'm very fortunate to have received the mercy of Krishna and of Guru, that now I'm being taught what actually to engage myself, how to engage my senses, how to also restrict my senses from indulgence, which will cause my disease to worsen. Yes? Yes, because if you eat the wrong things when you're in a diseased state, any Ayurvedic doctor will tell you it'll make your disease worse. You see? So when you're in a disease condition, then you have to restrict certain things. You have to restrict eating certain things and doing certain things, right? So the process of bhakti yoga for the conditioned soul is a return to normalcy. You know, the old, right? Yes. Now everybody has been familiarized with these terms. The new normal. You see? The new normal. Because actually both in their understanding are both abnormal. The old normal, the new normal condition of the living entity. Actually he says that also in the On Chanting Hare Krishna lecture. It is the normal condition of the living entity, Krishna consciousness. And this is not just speculation, this is the fact. This is what the Vedas tell to us. Tamasi ma jo. Come out of darkness in which you are sleeping, in which you are completely enveloped in ignorance. Come out of that darkness. Tamasi ma. Come out from tama. And jyotirgamayo. Go towards the light. This is human life. Go towards the light. So in all of our activities in our life, we have to understand that there is a measuring. It says, Tesham, unto those persons, satata yuktanam. They're always engaged, satata yuktanam, bhajatam, in worshipping me, purvakam, with loving, ecstatic emotions. That's who Krishna is referring to. The pure devotees who are constantly engaged. Satata yuktanam. Bhajatam priti purvakam. Priti purvakam means loving, priti purvakam. Overwhelmed with loving emotions. Yes. He says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. I give them. Dadami means to give. So Krishna actually gives to the devotee. It's a very personal exchange. It's a very conscious, personal exchange. That the devotee is always worshipping Krishna, loving moods of ecstasy. And Krishna constantly reciprocates with that devotee by giving buddhi yoga. Buddhi yoga means transcendental intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence. So dadami buddhi yogam tam. And by utilizing that intelligence, what will the devotee achieve? Yena mam upayantite. By which I will give them this knowledge, this intelligence, upayantite. They can approach me, they can attain me. No one can do without Krishna giving this. See? So Prahlad Maharaj, and here Prabhupada goes on, and he says, one must be cleansed of all these designations. But if someone only strives in that way, they'll not make spiritual advancement, they'll remain the same, they'll take birth again and again and again and again. You see? Until one gives up false designations, upadis, it is not possible to do actual bhakti. I have to understand that even from day one. Even from day one. This is one of the first things that we learn as new devotees. I'm not this body. Now you may not realize it, but intellectually you can grasp it if you're sincere and you think deeply about it, and you can understand. And then you can understand that I've been conditioned in this way lifetime after lifetime. Sometimes I'm a man, sometimes I'm a woman, sometimes I'm a bird or a beast, like this. But you can understand that you're just taking change of clothing lifetime after lifetime. And there are many subtle also conditionings that go along with the change of body. So all of this needs to be purified and cleansed so that we can realize who we actually are. Because realizing who you actually are is the true state of happiness. As long as we identify with the material body in the 64 limbs of bhakti in a very deep way, it will all be somewhat superficial engagement, not deep. That's why Mahaprabhu in the Rai Raman and the Sambad keeps on saying, that is external, go further. That is external, go further. You see. So, when one is purified, then he is attracted by Krishna. That's the point of this purport. When one is purified, he is attracted by Krishna. If you're not attracted by Krishna, that means you're in an impure, contaminated state. When he is purified, he is attracted to Krishna, and he begins to serve Krishna instead of serving Maya. Is that not a simple little formula? Serve Krishna instead of Maya. Become attracted to Krishna. Because if you're purified, you'll become attracted to Krishna, and then you'll serve Krishna instead of Maya. This is a very simple equation. Actually, we should make it into an equation. Okay? So, purified, he's attracted by Krishna. And then he begins to serve Krishna. When he's purified, he's attracted by Krishna. Then he begins to serve Krishna instead of serving Maya. So Maya is left aside. And now the purified soul is serving Krishna. This is his natural position. A devotee is attracted by Krishna, whereas a non-devotee, being contaminated by the dirt of material enjoyment, he's not. He's not attracted by Krishna. A devotee is attracted by Krishna, whereas a non-devotee, being contaminated by the dirt of material enjoyment, is not. So any devotee who's made just a little bit of advancement in Krishna consciousness knows that when I indulge my senses in the dirt of material enjoyment, I become less attracted to Krishna. I become less conscious of Krishna. It contaminates me. But when I engage in the service of Krishna and not in material enjoyment, then I become more attracted to Krishna. This is confirmed by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. This is the 7th chapter, end of the 7th chapter, verse 28. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanva moha nirmukta vajanti mam dridha vrataha. So, this is the verse about Dridha Vrataha. We used to have a godbrother named Dridha Vrata. Did you know him?
Yeah, very well.
Okay. What's the meaning of his name?
Firm vow.
Mm-hmm. To do what?
What did he say?
Strong. Firm resolution.
Firm vow. Dridha. The word Dridha means very firm. And Vrata means vow. Just like when we follow Ekadasi, that's called Ekadasi what? Vrat. It's a vow that we follow. So Dridha Vrata means firm vow. Okay? Now, in this verse, Krishna is telling, Yesham tu antagatam papam. Jananam Punyakarmana. He's talking about those living entities who have come to the end of their sinful life. Nirmukta. Two things. You become nirmukta. Nirmukta means to become free from dvandva, duality, and moha, illusion. Dvandva, moha, nirmukta. He has become freed from being affected by duality. How do we describe such a state? That you're no longer in duality.
Equipoise, steady.
In any condition, right? Distress, these are called dualities. Dualities. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Duality. This is a big word in the Vedic philosophy, right? It's a very foundational conception. Duality of the material world. Right? They've been freed from all sins. Then they're also become liberated from duality and illusion, moha. Dvandva means duality and moha means illusion. So Krishna is describing which kind of jivas will serve me. They will perform bhajan, firm determination. That's the last line. Bhajante mam drida vrataha. They worship me with a firm faith, firm vow. So we have to meditate on this, understand. This is the condition that we are destined to come to at some stage. Now, here Prabhupada will, in the existence, everyone in this material world is contaminated by material desire. So unless one is free from... So when Prahlad Maharaj stopped to speak to the teachers, then after he made his final statement of like iron being attracted to a magnet, then he became silent, and then the teachers, Shanda and Amarka, yes, they became very angry at him. And because they were servants of Hiranyakashipu, they were very sorry. And to chastise Prahlad Maharaj, they spoke as follows. So Prabhupada says in the purport that the word Shukra means semen. The sons of Shukra Acharya, they were Brahmins by birthright, but an actual Brahmin is one who possesses the Brahminical qualities. The Brahmins, Shanda and Amarka, being seminal sons of Shukracharya, they did not actually possess real Brahminical qualifications, for they engaged as servants of Hiranyakashipu. So an actual Brahmin is very much satisfied to see anyone, not to speak of his disciple, become a devotee of Lord Krishna. That's a real Brahmin. So such Brahmins are meant to satisfy the Supreme Master. A Brahmin is strictly prohibited from becoming a servant of anyone else. You know about that. For that is the business of dogs and Shudras, to become servant of someone else. A dog must satisfy his master, but a Brahmana does not have to satisfy anyone. He is simply meant to satisfy Krishna. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. That is the real qualification of a Brahmana. Because Shanda and Amarka were seminal Brahmanas and they had become servants of such a master as Hiranyakashipu, they unnecessarily wanted to chastise Prahlad Maharaj. So now, here's what the teachers, the angry teachers, said to Prahlad. Oh, please bring me a stick. This Prahlad is damaging our name and fame. Because of his bad intelligence, he has become like a cinder in the dynasty of the demons. Now he needs to be treated by the fourth of the four kinds of political diplomacy. So, in political affairs, when a person disobediently agitates against the government, there are four principles used to suppress him. First one is legal orders. The second one, pacification. The third one, the offer of a post. Or finally, weapons. Now, when there are no other arguments, then he is punished. In logic, this is called argumentum ad baculum. Argumentum ad baculum. So when the two seminal Brahmins, Shanda and Amarka, failed to extract from Prahlad Maharaj the cause for his having different opinions from those of his father, then they called for a stick with which to chastise him to satisfy their master, Hiranyakashipu. Because Prahlad had become a devotee, so they considered him to be contaminated by bad intelligence and to be the worst descendant in the family of demons. As it is said, where ignorance is bliss, then it is folly to be wise. So in a society or family in which everyone is a demon, for someone to become a Vaishnava is certainly folly. So thus Prahlad Maharaj was charged with bad intelligence because he was among demons, including his teachers, who were supposedly Brahmanas. So this is the sad state of affairs in the material world. That those who are of demoniac mentality, they are completely opposed to someone who is of the mentality of submission to the Supreme, service to the Supreme. They cannot tolerate that. Demons cannot tolerate. So Prabhupada is saying the members of our Krishna consciousness movement are in a position similar to that of Prahlad Maharaj. The members of our Krishna consciousness movement are in a position similar to that of Prahlad Maharaj. And we may see that come to pass more and more. We may see. We'll see what Krishna's plan is. So all over the world, 99% of the people are godless demons. And therefore our preaching of Krishna consciousness, following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, is always hampered by many impediments. Because of their fault of being devotees, the American boys who have sacrificed everything for preaching Krishna consciousness are charged with being members of the CIA. That Prabhupada is referring to around 1975, 76, that this rumor started that, these Hare Krishna people, they're building their temples here in India, but they're foreigners. Actually, they're CIA agents. Yeah? We even got into the newspapers, these kind of accusations, right?
Conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory. Yeah. So, moreover, the seminal Brahmins in India, who say that one can become a Brahmin only if born in a Brahmin family, they charge us with ruining the Hindu system of religion. They would approach Prabhupada and say, you're ruining our Hindu system of religion. Why? Because our system is based on caste, on birth. You're ruining our system. We have our system very nicely operating in society where we can exploit all the others below us because we're in the top position as Brahmanas, right? So you're ruining our business. Yes. Business. So, of course, the fact is that one becomes a Brahmin by qualification. You understand this point? That one becomes a Brahmin by qualification and not by
real
birth?
Brahmin?
A real Brahmin, yes. If you can call a person a Brahmana, just like this designation, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and so forth, is that based upon being born in a Brahmin family or born in a Kshatriya family and so forth? Is it? What is it based upon?
Qualities and characteristics.
Qualities and work. Characteristics and qualities, same thing. Guna karma vibhagasha. In the Sanskrit verse is guna karma vibhagasha. Divisions of guna, of quality, and of action, karma. So, does someone become a Brahmana by birth or by qualities and action?
Qualities and action.
But in the Vedic system, there are many Brahmin families. People are born into them. They're being called Brahmanas. What about that?
Well, they should come up to the standard of being Brahmins if their parents
What does coming up to the standard mean?
They have to go through the purificatory process, all the samskars, and of course come to the mode of goodness. So they're predominantly in the mode of goodness.
Does that make them a Brahmin? By being in the mode of goodness?
If that's the and they're
How does one become a Brahmin? If Krishna is saying qualities and work, that one is a Brahmin by qualities and work, then we have to look at the qualities that Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita belong to a Brahmana. Samo, Dhamma, Tapak, Socham, Kshantir, Arjavam, Evacha, Jnanam, Vijnanam, Ashtikyam, Brahma Karma, Swabhava, Jam. Brahma Karma, Swabhava. This is the activities, the actions, and the qualities, the nature of a person who is a true Brahmana. So when you say they have to come up to the standard, that's correct. But what does it mean to come to the standard? And how does one come to a standard? Does it mean just that he gets some samskaras done? Some mantras are chanted?
They have to take their effect, and so these qualities that you just described will manifest.
Yeah, if they don't possess the qualities, and they don't actually have the capability and qualification to act as a Brahmana, that's a whole topic in itself. What is the actions that Brahmins perform? Right? But if they cannot do that, you cannot call them a Brahmin. But today's caste system, they're just being called Brahmins because they're born in a Brahmin family, so-called, which is actually not true anyway, because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur debunked this whole theory in his book, Brahmins and Vaishnavas. You can read there a very wonderful explanation that in the Kali Yuga, there are no pure Brahmanas. There's all this, generally in the previous yugas, if a person was born into a Brahmin family, they would naturally become a Brahmin by quality and by work, because it's a particular samskar to be born in that condition. But now, that does not exist anymore, and there are no pure Brahmin lineages. So therefore, the actual position of making someone a Brahmana is depending upon how they're trained and how their qualities manifest, and their activities, their work manifests. And that's Mahaprabhu's system that he introduced through his own associates and also in the line of the 6 Goswamis and the literatures, Hari Bhakti Vilas and so forth. And that was applied by Srila Prabhupada, our Prabhupada, in the Western world. And it was applied in such a way that if a person can practice Krishna consciousness, they'll come into the mode of goodness, and then gradually they can act as actual Brahmanas. So this is the actual proof. What is a true Brahmana? So we'll end there. And then we'll go on, no time, because but you can ask me separately, because Jaigo is going to do the artik.
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
This is walking over. No, but at Prabhuji's temple in India,
Yeah.
Radha Darcy says, here come the Brahmanas, so it's all these people,
Yeah.
but it's that caste Brahman.
Yeah, it's caste Brahman, but some of them may be Brahmins
Yeah, that's
by activity and quality as well.
There you go. That's
But in the Dham, there are many, many caste Brahmins, and a lot of them are not really truly Brahmins. But we officially and externally, we offer them respect. Yeah. But the real respect is offered to the pure Vaishnavas,
yeah.
who are the highest in the Brahmins. Gaur Premanand